Several concurrent UFO stories are beginning to unfold globally as we begin September, with updates coming out of Canada, the US, and Mexico, including a new secret memo that was sent to the Canadian Prime Minister outlining new details about the February shootdowns over North America. In the US, we have upcoming deadlines for the Inspector General to provide details related to UFO program names, locations, and personnel as alleged by David Grush, as well as a top secret NASA meeting that discussed what the protocol will be if the James Webb Space Telescope does in fact discover alien life. And we haven't even gotten to the upcoming inaugural UFO hearing in the Mexican Congress that is now going to include representatives from not only the US, Canada, and Japan, which I've covered in a previous video, but also the addition of France and Argentina. So let's dive in. So starting off in Canada, we have a new exclusive from CTV News, which discovered a secret memo by way of a Freedom of Information Act request that was sent to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau alongside his National Security Advisor, Jody Thomas, related to what the Canadian government knew about the objects that were shot down in February. Now, if you recall, in the US, we had the Chinese balloon shoot down off the coast of South Carolina, but then we had an additional 3 objects out of Alaska and over the Great Lakes that were not identified as being anything specific, and that they had not recovered any actual material from those shoot downs because the environment was too treacherous. So just a couple of quick things to double click on this memo which are interesting. Number one is this is now confirmation that both the head of state of the US and Canada are actively being briefed on the UAP topic. 2, NORAD uses a sequential numbering system. So NORAD is the North American Aerospace Defense Command, a joint command between the US and Canada with the goal of defending continental North America. So they use a sequential numbering system for UAP. This is interesting because the February shootdown, one of the objects was object number 23. We in the public are only aware of 3 objects that were shot down in February, but we now have confirmation that there have been 20 other instances specifically of UAP that they have engaged with that we don't know any information about publicly. And specific to object 23, again, the function, method of propulsion, or affiliation to any nation state remains unverified. That is fascinating given during that same time period, we were able to very quickly identify the Chinese spy balloon off the coast of South Carolina. So the memo contains several redactions, but in the 4th bullet point of the first page, there's an interesting point in the last sentence. The full exploitation of UAP number 20, which was engaged by the US on February 10th, 2023, has not yet been completed. This is interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, the US government has refused to address whether they've recovered any of the material from those shootdowns and has actively said that they were unable to do so. And 2, it also is proof positive that there are existing cross-border protocols to handle crash retrievals and reverse engineering. So the question is, have any of those occurred that include any vehicles of non-human origin? So that memo just came out today, September 5th. Yesterday, September 4th, we also found out that NASA held a top secret conference to discuss what the protocol should be if the James Webb Space Telescope does in fact discover proof of alien life. And Jared Moskowitz, who is a member in the House Oversight Committee representing Florida, a Democrat, believes that what they should do is the obvious thing, which is to tell us. He is also one of the 6 members of the newly created UAP caucus in Congress that has officially demanded the Intelligence Community Inspector General provide them all of the classified UFO locations, program names, and personnel details that David Grush alleged to in his oversight hearing in front of Congress at the end of July. That deadline is coming up in 2 weeks. And that deadline, which is September 15th, is just 3 days after the Mexican Congress will host their international UFO hearing, which for those of us who are English speaking or based here in the US, we will be getting some mainstream media coverage, at least in the post-hearing analysis from one network who's confirmed they'll be there, Fox News. And the hearing will include testimonies from 3 Americans, a researcher from Brazil representing South America, a member of Congress from Japan representing Asia, a researcher from France representing the EU, and will now also include specific representation from pilots within Argentina. This doesn't even begin to scratch the surface with the number and volume of updates that we've seen just in the last 2 weeks, including things like the release of the new ARROW website, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which now has a new presentation showing the common morphologies, the shapes and sizes, altitudes they fly at, regions on the planet for their existing 600 plus cases of UFO reports from government officials. This also doesn't even cover the power battle that happened with who had control over ARROW, which has now been moved under the Deputy Secretary of Defense, which is a big deal because basically the second in charge for the Defense Department now has personal oversight over that declassification website. We also didn't cover that the National Archives has begun digitizing and publishing online thousands of records related to UFOs that they were mandated to do as a part of previous legislation. That has begun to go online. And all of this is happening in the backdrop of a new website project that I've been able to collaborate with others in the community called UAPcaucus.com, which is now going to help congressional members get up to speed on the issues that matter to us in the community. So be sure to check that out. There are a bunch of guides and news updates. So if you want to take this off TikTok, there's plenty of information. You can follow up with me there. It'll be in the comments below. I appreciate you guys. More soon.